Unstoppable Coco, the epic comeback to claim victory at Wuhan Masters. Flex biceps medium dark skin tone fire trophy. The crowd inside the Optics Valley International Tennis Center could barely breathe. It was nearly midnight in Wuhan. A humid, electric night. The air trembled with tension and awe as Coco Gauff, the 21-year-old American phenom, stood behind the baseline, sweat dripping down her neck, chest heaving, eyes locked on the final point that would define her season, maybe even her career. Across the net stood Elena Rybakina, stoic and unflinching, her face betraying none of the exhaustion from the previous 2.5 hours of brutal rallies. She had led by a set and a break. She had held match points. She had silenced the crowd for most of the night. And yet, somehow, someway, Coco Gauff was still here. The score read 5-7, 7-6, 8, 6-4. Match point, Gauff. Come on, Coco, someone shouted from the upper rows. She tossed the ball, served out wide, followed it up with a backhand cross-court. Rybakina stretched, but framed it long. The ball sailed past the baseline. For a heartbeat, silence. Then came the explosion, a roar so loud it shook the rafters. Coco dropped her racket, fell to her knees, and buried her face in her hands. The scoreboard flashed her name in gold. Coco Gauff, champion, 2025 Wuhan Masters. A battle beyond the baseline. What unfolded that night in Wuhan wasn't just another tennis match. It was a test of spirit, the kind that defines champions. Gauff came into the Wuhan Masters riding a mixed season. Her win at the China Open earlier in Beijing had reignited her confidence, but inconsistency had haunted her throughout the hard court swing. She'd struggled with early exits in Tokyo and Seoul, and critics began to whisper that her U.S. Open glory 2 years earlier might have been a peak she couldn't sustain. But in Wuhan, under lights, pressure, and a partisan crowd, she found something deeper. Her coach, Brad Gilbert, later said in the press room, Coco didn't just win a match tonight. She won back her fire. She refused to give up when the script said she should. That's what separates good players from legends. The early storm. The match began under the roof, closed due to a late evening drizzle. Rybakina, ranked world number 4, looked unbreakable. Her serve was piercing, her timing perfect. She broke Coco's opening game with ruthless precision, a backhand return winner down the line that drew gasps. Coco, visibly tight, committed 11 unforced errors in the first set. She seemed trapped between aggression and hesitation, searching for rhythm against Rybakina's flat, laser-like drives. The first set ended 7-5 in Rybakina's favor, sealed by an ace. During the changeover, Coco sat quietly. She didn't rant, didn't throw her towel, just stared at her strings. Then she looked up at the stands, where her family and boyfriend Jalen Sarah sat anxiously. He nodded once, just one small gesture. Something in her shifted, finding the fire. In the second set, Coco began to move differently, lighter, looser, with that elastic explosiveness that defined her breakout years. She started mixing her shots, drawing Rybakina into long, grinding rallies. But Rybakina broke again early for 3-1, and when she stepped up to serve at 5-3, it seemed over. The crowd sensed it. Even the commentators started framing the narrative of Rybakina's dominance. Then came the turning point. At 5-3, 30-15, Rybakina hit a forehand approach that looked perfect, until Coco launched herself into a sliding forehand pass that curled around the post and kissed the sideline. The crowd erupted. That single point changed everything. Rybakina's focus wavered. Gauff broke back, then held, then broke again. From there, the set turned into a tiebreaker drenched in drama. 5 set point save, both players clawing for control. At 8-8, Coco fired a 112 miles per hour serve down the tee, then finished with a fearless backhand winner. On her 6th set point, she forced Rybakina into an error. Set Gauff 7-6, 8. Coco pumped her fist, screamed toward the sky. A raw, defiant yell that echoed across the arena. Momentum had shifted. Destiny had awakened. The decider, heart over power. By the 3rd set, fatigue was visible on both faces. Rybakina leaned on her serve, Gauff leaned on her legs. Every point was a war. At 2-2, Coco broke with a forehand winner that landed millimeters inside the line. She clenched her fist but didn't celebrate. She knew better than to awaken the sleeping giant on the other side. But Rybakina responded with relentless aggression, leveling at 3-3. Then came the game of the match, an 11-minute marathon with 4 deuces. Rybakina saving break points with blistering aces. But Coco refused to back off, standing inside the baseline, daring the Kazakh to outlast her. She didn't. Coco broke again and screamed, "Let's go!" The crowd answered with a thunderous roar. The final push. At 5-4, serving for the title, Gauff didn't blink. She hit 3 first serves over 110 miles per hour. Each one drew a desperate return, each rally building until Rybakina cracked. Match point came on a deep rally. Coco sent a looping forehand that Rybakina barely reached. The return sailed long. Game. Set. Match. The clock read 2 hours, 54 minutes. Coco fell backward, overwhelmed by the moment. The tears came instantly. The same crowd that had been silent early now chanted her name in unison. Coco, Coco, Coco. Post-match emotion. At the trophy ceremony, Gauff wore a wide smile, but her voice trembled when she spoke. Honestly, I just kept telling myself to fight. Even when I was down, I thought of all the people who believed in me. My team, my family, my faith. They're the reason I kept going tonight. She paused, eyes glistening. Elena played unbelievable tennis. She pushed me to my absolute limit. But I guess sometimes the limit isn't the end. It's where you begin again. Rybakina, ever composed, later said, Coco deserved it. She played brave tennis. That's what champions do. Global reactions. Social media exploded after the match. Billie Jean King posted on X, Coco Gauff once again shows the power of perseverance. What a comeback. What a champion. Serena Williams, her idol, wrote, watching Coco fight like that reminded me of my younger self. Keep going, champ. Epilogue, the Wuhan walk. After the ceremony, Coco stayed behind on court long after most fans had left. She walked around slowly, picking up her towel, her racket, and finally, a small Philippine flag handed to her by a young fan near the stands. She waved it, then pressed it against her chest. On the floodlights of Wuhan, she looked around one last time, at the empty seats that had moments ago held thousands of people chanting her name. Then she whispered to herself, barely audible, unstoppable. Final thoughts. The 2025 Wuhan Masters will be remembered not just for its breathtaking tennis, but for what it symbolized, the rise of a champion who refuses to surrender to circumstance. Coco Gauff's victory was not about domination. It was about defiance, not about power, but persistence, not about perfection, but perseverance. As she left the arena that night, her hoodie pulled over her head, headphones in place, she looked every bit the global superstar she has become. Yet still, somehow, the same girl who once dreamed on the courts of Delray Beach. And now, that dream burns brighter than ever. Unstoppable Coco, champion of Wuhan, a legend in motion. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like, and share. Till next time.